pass.
Okay, we're back on the record. This is case number 2018-02354, Sherry versus Froedtert12. We are on the 5th day of hearing. We are in the afternoon session of that hearing. We were in the middle of the respondent's cross-examination of the complainant, Ms. Sherry, and we will start up with that again. So without further ado, I will let you continue, Ms. Krakowski.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if we're looking at an exhibit, but if you need me to pull one up, let me know, because it doesn't look like, it doesn't appear that I have the exhibits up anymore.
Okay, no, not for right now.
Okay.
Work together and make it happen. So one of the questions that I left off on, and by the way, I only have one more exhibit, and so we'll make this as short as we can. And I understand that, you know, there's been a lot that's happened today. I won't introduce that next exhibit yet, but what I would like to know, Shernay, is it your testimony that Dr. Savadison is the only cardiothoracic surgeon at Froedtert12 when you worked there?
So on June 1st, she was. The Froedtert from Milwaukee surgeons were credentialed in early July.
And I just want to go a year for the record, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry, 2018.
So Dr. Savadison was the only cardiothoracic surgeon that worked at the time you left your employment.
Not when I left my employment, when I asked to be transferred out of cardiac surgery while she was there.
And was she the only cardiothoracic surgeon that worked at the time you left your employment?
No, there were the Froedtert in Milwaukee surgeons were credentialed in early July 2018. And then I was let go July 27th, 2018.
And was Dr. Savadison, I'm sorry, was she the only cardiothoracic surgeon that worked at Froedtert12 in Kenosha at the time that you left your employment with Froedtert12?
Checked, asked, and answered.
I don't think that was answered.
Well, maybe you're going back and forth on leaving versus being terminated. Are you looking for a specific date?
I think that things before we broke, I think that you had changed to saying employment ended, and I think that was that seemed to be a term that the parties agreed on. I don't know if you want to use that term, or if Mr. or take, you know, if there is a specific date that you're looking for, a time period, that would be helpful too.
Okay, so at the time that your employment ended with Froedtert12, was Dr. Savadison the only cardiothoracic surgeon working for Froedtert12?
No, the cardiac surgeons from Froedtert in Milwaukee were credentialed in early July, I think the first week of July.
No, I asked about Froedtert12.
They were credentialed at Froedtert12 and can do surgery at Froedtert12.
Was Dr. Savadison the only cardiothoracic surgeon that worked at Froedtert12 at the time your employment ended?
Asked and answered.
She did not answer that.
The Froedtert in Milwaukee surgeons started in early July.
No, I'm asking you to give me a yes or no answer. Was Dr. Savadison the only cardiothoracic surgeon that was employed at Froedtert South when your employment ended with Froedtert South?
Asked and answered.
It has not been answered.
She's said no, actually, several times, that there are doctors from Milwaukee Froedtert gained rights in early July. Is there, I think that you're talking past each other. I don't know if you need to ask the, a different question.
Was the other cardiothoracic surgeon you're referring to employed by Froedtert South?
I
No
don't know how they-
foundation.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Mr. Olson.
No foundation.
Okay, do you have that knowledge?
I don't. I know they can do surgery at Froedtert South. I don't know how the employment things worked, but I know they can do surgery there.
And how do you know that?
I had a email in my work email saying that they were credentialed to do surgery when they were credentialed in early July. Anytime anyone gets credentialed, they send out like a notice on an email.
And do you have that introduced as an exhibit in this hearing?
No, I didn't save that email, but I know there was a text message to Bessa saying that I was excited that those surgeons were started.
And how do you know this information? Where do you get this information from? Because we don't have exhibits in the record.
How I got information that the surgeons were credentialed?
That you would allegedly have an opportunity to work at Froedtert in Milwaukee.
I don't
That's
think
not what
I don't
said.
think that's, yeah, I don't think she said she was going to be able to work in Milwaukee.
Okay, so my question is, was Dr. Savatison the only cardiothoracic surgeon that worked at Froedtert South at the time you left your employment?
Okay, and this has been asked about, I don't know how many times. And it's
Well,
been
I don't
answered.
have an absolute answer. We don't have an answer.
Okay,
Executive ruled on it.
I believe that the answer was no. Ms. Sherry, is that the answer?
Correct.
Okay. And who else was a cardiothoracic surgeon at Froedtert South at the time you left your employment?
The surgeons at Froedtert in Milwaukee.
Did you ask to be transferred to a position at Froedtert in Milwaukee?
No, I didn't ask to be transferred to Milwaukee. I couldn't do surgery in Milwaukee because I'd be outside of the surgical call range.
What does surgical call range mean?
So to do cardiac surgery, you typically have to take surgical call. And typically you have to be within the hospital within 30 minutes. And I live in Pleasant Prairie.
And where were the surgeons employed with regard to the Froedtert in Milwaukee clinic that you're referring to?
And
Your
the hospital
objective form, is this, you're asking for the address?
I would like to know the location.
at the Froedtert Hospital in Milwaukee. It's on the border of Wauwatosa and Milwaukee.
Okay, and so when you decided you couldn't work for Dr. Savatison, what did you do with regard to employment within the Milwaukee Froedtert clinic?
I didn't do anything since I wasn't employed at that hospital. I didn't have credentials at that hospital.
And when did that occur?
And I never had credentials at that hospital.
At which hospital are you referring to in your testimony?
The Froedtert in Milwaukee.
Why didn't you have credentials there?
Because I didn't work there.
And did you attempt to get credentials at Froedtert Milwaukee?
Again, no, I did not, since I was outside the surgical call range.
What does that mean again? Surgical call range?
Asked and answered.
She did. The testimony so far was that she couldn't be at the Milwaukee Froedtert within 30 minutes of a call, which is a requirement of surgery or being part of a surgery. Again, those aren't her exact words.
Okay.
So I guess I'll just follow up and ask. So Ms. Sherry, Ms. Sherry, is that a requirement of being a surgical PA, as that you have to be at your place of work within 30 minutes of a call?
Yeah, if you're in surgical call, that's pretty much everyone's requirement, yes.
Okay.
And it leads to the next question, which is a little out of order, but where are you working now?
Object, this goes to post-discharge mitigation.
I think it's relevant to the fact that we want to know where she's working if we're talking about a relevant subject allegedly that deals with working within 30 miles of the range.
Okay. I'm not considering obviously damages or mitigation of damages at this time. I'll allow this question, but I don't want to go into mitigation or damages. Okay.
It's irrelevant unless she's a surgical PA.
I think that it's important to know where she is working. If she's alleging that she couldn't work 30 miles outside of the range that she lives, or that she works for prior to her decision to leave Froedtert12, but I think it's very relevant. And
It's
I would like to know where she is working now.
It's irrelevant unless she's required in her current job to be within a 30-minute radius.
I think that what's important here is
Okay.
that at least we get to know where she is employed, where she went to after she left her employment. Again,
I'll allow a response to this. I don't want to talk about mitigation or damages. I'm not going to consider that at this juncture. And Mr. Olson, if she asks this one question and you want to follow up and redirect to ask the question that you have, or the clarification that you wanted to make, apparently, you're free to do so. Okay.
Okay.
So I work at Aurora St. Luke's. I originally took a job as a cardiac surgery PA that was not in the OR. I only did postoperative management. And then I was promoted and I now work in the structural heart program. I lead the structural heart program. And I also do not take surgical call because I'm outside the range.
What does outside the range mean?
I'm outside the surgical call range of 30 minutes to take surgical call. So I'm a non-OR provider.
Okay. And when did you start to look for the job at Aurora St. Luke's?
Okay, this again is post-discharge mitigation. So
No, it has to do with absolutely the issue that we're dealing with regard to whether she left voluntarily or had any other issue that caused her to leave her employment.
Okay, I'll allow it at this point.
What was the question?
I believe it was, when did you start looking for the position that you currently, or I guess it wouldn't be the position you currently have, but when did you start looking for the position that you eventually obtained at St. Luke's, that first surgical position you had there?
So I started looking for jobs back in May 2018 when things were getting really tough and administration wasn't doing anything about it.
And what were you doing when you started looking in May 2018?
As an employment,
Right.
I was working at Froedtert12 under Dr. Sivadas doing cardiac surgery.
And what were your steps in looking for other employment during May of 2018?
That's when I started, basically just looking at online postings mostly.
And what kind of online posting?
Like Glassdoor, Indeed, the actual hospital, like job websites.
Okay,
LinkedIn.
can I get those down in writing for myself here? Indeed, and what were the other ones you just cited?
I did Indeed, Glassdoor, like the actual websites of each hospital, the job postings.
When you say each hospital, what do you mean?
So I looked at like Aurora, I looked at Northwestern.
Let me get this down, please. I'm sorry to slow you down. Northwestern, you said, and who else?
Aurora, Advocate Aurora.
And who else?
A locum tenens group,
And what is that?
basically a traveling surgical PA.
Can you explain what that means?
So similar to like if when we discussed like Dr. Sivadas would request a time off, or if a surgical PA requested time off, you would have to hire locums typically to fill in for that time frame. So there is coverage. So if a hospital had a maternity leave, let's say, or FMLA of a surgical PA and they needed coverage, they would hire a locums PA to cover for those time off.
And what hospital systems or other healthcare institutions were involved with the locum tenens?
So that was, it's a private locum tenens, and then they would like sign up with hospitals around the United States. So you would go everywhere.
So you were looking at all hospitals across the United States?
So that would be for like the locums I was.
And that's based on a website? How did you look for the positions across the United States through locum tenens?
So I just interviewed with the locum tenens company. So you would be employed by the locum tenens company, and then the hospital would pay the locum tenens company, who would then pay you on wherever you're needed. So you can sign up for whatever, like a destination. So when I was discussing with them, I wanted to stay within the Midwest within a certain hour time frame of my home. And they would set up your lodging, typically your food and transportation and things like that.
Okay, and what was the result of these online postings with, and tell me if I need to add to this, but you said Indeed, Door, and the website of each hospital, Northwestern, Aurora, locum tenens. Is there anything else that you used in terms of a source for online postings?
I think I also looked at LinkedIn.
And this was prior to your departure from Froedtert12 in Kenosha.
Yeah, I started looking in May 2018.
And what was the outcome to your looking into these other areas and sites that you were in?
I interviewed with some of them.
Who did you interview with?
Advocate Aurora.
I'm sorry, you said Aurora or Advocate Aurora?
Yeah, that's,
You said Advocate Aurora?
yeah, Aurora got merged with Advocate Aurora, so. And then I had a phone interview with the Locum Tenens group.
So you were already planning on leaving your employment with Froedtert12 in Kenosha when you were interviewing in May of 2018.
No, I just wanted a plan B in case things didn't work out. I didn't want to be unemployed for extended period of time. And how the rate things were going with administration and dealing with Dr. Sivadas, I didn't feel comfortable with not having a plan B, or at least to have options that I knew that were out there. I didn't interview until later.
So you, in May of 2018, were looking at what you would call Plan B options. Can you explain that?
In case I needed, if Dr. Sivadas actually had me fired in May, if I don't know, just in case something happened with administration. I kind of lost a lot of trust in what was going on at that point. So I wanted to make sure I was safe financially and employment wise for health insurance and things like that.
And you were being paid time off at this point when you were looking at the Plan B options?
No, I started in May 2018, so I was still working at that point.
Right, but you paid time off during that time.
In June and July, yes. I was still under employment with Froedtert12.
In June and July, you were still looking for another position outside of Froedtert12, is that right?
Yes, Susan and Nick were encouraging me to as well.
Well, my question is, were you looking into your Plan B options while you were on PTO in June and July of 2018? It's a yes or no question.
Asked and answered.
It was not PTO.
Okay, she did say yes, and then she added an answer. Do you want to add? I mean,
put your answer for the record, because obviously we're going to be, well, we'll get into that right now, but what I'd like you to answer for me is whether you were getting paid time off compensation in June and July of 2018 while you were looking for other employment, yes or no?
I was getting paid for my time off. They did not inform me that it was from my PTO.
I'm asking you a yes or no answer. Were you being paid time off in June and July of 2018 when you were looking for other employment? Yes or no?
Yes, I was paid.
Thank you. Okay, so what I'd like to get into now is what your opinion is of what specific rule Dr. Sivadas violated at any time, and anything that you can cite to for our purposes today.
You want me to go through everything? The verbal abuse,
No. I'm talking about a specific rule. And I'm talking about anything that you believe violates a law or violation of the law.
harassment.
Okay, and do you know any kind of statute or any kind of citation to what that would be?
I'm going to object, calls for a legal conclusion. The law doesn't require that she identify specific statutes or regulations.
And I'm still going to ask the question, what rule of harassment was she violating?
Still, I post the objection pending the judge's ruling on it.
Your objection is noted. Can you answer that, Ms. Sherry?
Like, are you trying to get like verbal harassment out?
I just want to know what you believe, and this is a very important part of the case. What rule do you believe was violated with regard to the complaint that you allegedly made regarding Dr. Savadison?
Workplace harassment was definitely violated.
Any other rule that you know of that was violated, in your opinion?
Can you make that question a little more clear?
Sure. Is there any specific rule that she violated other than harassment, in your opinion, in terms of Dr. Savadison during your employment with Froedtert12?
I guess the other ones would be just a general patient safety, upholding your Hippocratic oath.
And is that what you reported to Froedtert12, allegedly?
Yes, on multiple occasions.
Oh, harassment and Hippocratic oath.
She also said safety.
Patient safety was the other thing she said.
And anything else that you want to add to what your alleged violations were by Dr. Savadison?
I think those are the big ones.
Do you know what specific rule Dr. Savadison allegedly violated?
Everything I just said.
So you don't know a specific rule that Dr. Savadison allegedly violated?
Other than Hippocratic oath, just the general patient safety and workplace harassment. I don't have the policy book in front of me.
So you continued to work with Dr. Savadison from our timeline that we have at least 4 months after you started complaining about her behavior. Is that correct?
Jack mischaracterizes the timeline.
When did you start complaining about Dr. Savadison?
I started having meetings with administration in April 2018.
And how
Is that
long?
when, I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. So did you complain, like file complaints or complain to the admin before that time, or was that also the time that you complained to them?
So I never complained to hospital administration until I noticed escalating patient safety issues. And that's when I started in April 2018.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so what was your first complaint that you can remember in April of 2018?
I was having meetings with Brandy Ford regarding not only her behavior, but some issues with patient safety.
And then you continued to work with Dr. Savadison for,
Until June 1st, 2018.
so approximately 2 months. You worked with her after you made a complaint.
Yeah, a little over 2 months.
So more than 2 months.
Somewhere around there.
One minute, Judge. Okay, did Froedtert12 offer you an unconditional offer to return to work with Dr. Stone?
Okay, well, this clearly goes
Yeah,
to.
I
the
thought we
minute-
weren't getting into this.
Okay, right. Was only asking if she wanted to testify to that about the fact that Dr. Stone was then the replacement for Dr. Savadison, who she couldn't work. So
Same objection. I had to forego,
what else?
hold on, I'm not done with my objection. I
What
had to
else
forego. May I
I'll
state my objection? I
what,
had to forego. I
Go
had
ahead,
to
Mr. Olson.
forego- Yes, I had to forego testimony by several witnesses on this topic, so I object.
Right, we're not getting into the the mitigation or damages.
okay, what else could have Froedtert12 Kenosha do for you to keep you employed, in your opinion? What else could they have done?
I was happy to work with hematology oncology. I offered to work with pulmonary and critical care. That was never offered. They could have had me work with the Froedtert Milwaukee surgeons. I was more than happy to do that. I kind of anticipated some kind of action to correct Dr. Savadason's behavior. So maybe I could work with her again. I was happy to do any of those things.
And we have your testimony on those issues already, so we don't need to get back into those rejections that you had. If you want to add something about why you were not working in one of those three departments, I'm sure that we already have enough in the record already about why you did not work for those departments.
Because they didn't offer a position in those departments.
And the physicians that you're referring to were not employed by Froedtert12, is that correct?
So the pulmonary and critical care was employed by Froedtert12. The hematology oncology clinic was offered by them. And then I don't know how the employment with the cardiac surgeons worked, but they had credentials there, so they couldn't have had me work with them if they came down and did surgery.
So why don't you tell me the doctors' names then of the hematology and pulmonary doctors that you claim that work for Froedtert12?
Could I have that question back? I didn't hear the first part.
What were the doctors' names of the people that worked for Froedtert12 in pulmonology and hematology?
So the pulmonologists were Dr. Bloom, Dr. Habel, and Dr. Mariani.
And they work for Froedtert12?
They do. And then the hematology oncology would be Dr. David Knight.
Why didn't you work for them?
Because, well, hematology oncology, I offered to work with them, and Susan Ventura never set that up. And then the pulmonary position was never offered by Froedtert12.
Okay, so I just have to address something here. How do you know that any of these doctors were an option for you to work for while you were still employed with Froedtert12 in Kenosha?
How does she know the doctors what?
Were working for Froedtert12 at the time she worked for Froedtert12.
Well, I know hematology oncology because that was an offer that was given by Froedtert12 and then never followed through on. And then
Okay, let's back up. What you're saying, the hematology doctor, can you repeat what you just said?
So Froedtert12 offered for me to work with the hematology oncology team. So I assumed they were employed by Froedtert12
You assumed. How did you assume that?
because they offered me the position.
It's
And
also
what-
established through Ms. Ventura, so.
How did you decide not to take a position at that point for that offer?
I didn't refuse. The administration never set that up and followed through with that.
This has been asked and answered. It's covered.
We have been through this. The exact questions haven't been asked, but we've been through this, Ms. Krakowski.
Okay. And my question is, how do you know that these positions to you?
I'm sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear that.
Were these positions denied to you?
Well, there was no position.
Hold on, objection asked and answered. It's been covered already. This whole series is covered.
Well, we were talking about pulmonary care, and she went through 3 doctors, and actually I was only able to get down to 3 doctors names, Dr. Bloom, Abel, and then there's one other.
Who is the third doctor in pulmonary care?
Right.
Dr. Mariani,
And how do you spell that?
Mariani, I believe.
M-A-R.
IANI.
Okay. And with oncology?
Was Dr. David Knight.
You said that was hematology, I believe.
Yeah, it's both hematology and oncology. It's
Okay. I need to take a 2-minute break with regard to my daughter right now. And if we could do that, let's see, it's 3:13. Could we take until 3:20?
Okay. Yep. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Especially, okay. 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 Zoom. There we go. Okay, we're recording again.
Okay. So, Shernay, you're assuming that the doctors that you testified about were employed by Froedtert12 Kenosha, is that right?
yes.
And there were no other cardiothoracic surgeons that were credentialed at Froedtert-South when you left your employment with Froedtert-South, is that right?
Objection, asked and answered.
Yes, I believe that, and also I know that there's been some discrepancy over when she left, and I think the end of the employment was the term that you had moved to. But we were over the, who was credentialed when at Froedtert-South when her employment ended, and I believe the testimony was that the Milwaukee Froedtert cardiologists were then credentialed to work or to have surgeries at Froedtert-South at that point. If I'm misstating something, let me know, Ms. Sherry. But that's what I have in my notes.
Correct.
The cardiothoracic surgeons that we talked about weren't employed by or credentialed by Froedtert-South in Kenosha. Is that correct?
Objection, asked and answered, and also that's enough. It's been asked,
Okay.
it's been covered.
Well, I think, I don't know if you're what you're trying to get at is if Froedtert-South and Froedtert-Milwaukee were different employers. Is that where this is going, Ms. Krakowski, or?
Yeah. They were, my point is, does Charnay know if they were employed with Froedtert-South? And if not, that's fine.
Okay, and when you say employed by, I guess, just, well, can you answer that question, Ms. Sherry?
I know they were credentialed at Froedtert-South, and I know Froedtert-South and Froedtert had a partnership. I don't know exactly how the employment agreements worked with that.
All right. So are you aware that the doctors that you referred to in your testimony within the last hour, they didn't have office space at Froedtert-South in Kenosha?
Which physicians?
The ones that you referred to just within the last hour in hematology and pulmonology?
They do have offices at Froedtert-South. their
How do you
employment,
know that?
because I've been in their offices.
And which doctors have office space there?
All of them. Hable, Bloom, Mariani, Knight, all have office.
So isn't it true that the cardiothoracic surgeons don't have office space at Froedtert South in Kenosha?
Well, there's a cardiothoracic surgery office.
There's one office that you're claiming?
Yes,
And who does that belong to?
the cardiothoracic surgeon. It belongs to the hospital. Dr. Sivdasan does not own the office.
And so the surgeons that you're referring to in hematology and pulmonology, are you aware that they were on call with Froedtert South less than 5 weeks a year?
What physicians?
The hematology and pulmonology doctors that you referred to in your testimony, are you aware that they were on call less than 5 weeks a year with Froedtert South?
I don't know the call schedule for hematology, oncology, or pulmonary.
So essentially, you don't know how the employment agreements worked with regard to the surgeons you referred to with regard to hematology and pulmonology, is that right?
I believe pulmonary and hematology, oncology are employed by Froedtert South.
You know that to be a fact?
I'm fairly certain, yes.
And how would you know that?
Working at Froedtert South, I know that I know hematology oncology was employed because Susan offered that position. And then pulmonary with discussing it with the physicians, and that was just general knowledge.
And would you agree that you don't have firsthand knowledge of any contract that they had with or potentially didn't have with Froedtert South in Kenosha?
Asked and answered. Asked and answered.
Ask the question again, Ms. Krakowski.
Okay, I'm asking about employment contracts that she is aware of between the doctors that were at Froedtert South in Milwaukee, or I'm sorry, Froedtert in Milwaukee versus the doctors that she claims had an affiliation or were working with Froedtert South. I'll
She answered it
specifically ask
twice.
you. We don't know. My question is, do you know how the employment agreements were formed between those doctors and Froedtert South?
She answered that twice.
I'm going to allow the answer now, but let's keep going here.
Yeah, again, I know that they were credentialed at Froedtert South. I don't know how the Froedtert in Milwaukee and Froedtert South, I know there was a collaboration between the hospitals, but I don't know how their employment agreements worked out.
How do you know they were credentialed at Froedtert South?
Again, I got an email from administration to my work email saying that they were credentialed as a general mass email that they always send when someone's credentialed.
And is that in evidence, Mr. Olson?
We discussed this, it's not, but I have a text message to Bessa saying that they were credentialed.
So it's not in evidence.
I asked for it. You refused to produce it.
I disagree.
And Ms. Krakowski, I don't know if you moved away from the microphone, but we're having more difficulty hearing you now.
Sorry. I'm just looking at one other note I have here. Are you aware that Froedtert12 in Milwaukee is a different employer than Froedtert12 Kenosha?
So Froedtert in Milwaukee and Froedtert South are separate.
I'm asking you if you know that.
He called it Froedtert South Milwaukee. So regular Froedtert,
Froedtert12 Kenosha and Froedtert in Milwaukee are separate employers. Are you aware of that?
I know that they have a collaboration. I don't know how that works though. I know that I can't go up there and do surgery because I'm not credentialed there. And I don't get paid. I guess I don't know how that works. If they get credentialed at two hospitals, how their payment gets broken up.
Why didn't you go to work for Froedtert Milwaukee?
Asked and answered. We went through this whole response time issue. 30 minutes.
I think it's related to the fact that she's now working in Milwaukee at St. Luke's. So I'm asking, why wouldn't you go to work for Froedtert in Milwaukee if you're going to Milwaukee for St. Luke's?
She has gone through this. We have been through this, and it was, remember, it was regarding the call time.
Okay.
Being outside the 30 minutes.
Did you attempt to obtain employment with Froedtert in Milwaukee?
No,
And why is that?
Asked and answered.
We have been through this, Ms. Krakowski.
Okay. All right, I have nothing further.
Okay. Redirect.
Yes, during cross-exam, Ms. Sherry, you were asked or you testified about being concerned about your licensure. What is your license? Is that through the state of Wisconsin?
it is.
Okay. And what was your concern about your licensure as it would relate to Dr. Sivaдаsan?
So I was concerned because with the patient safety issues, my name is also on all of those charts. So if there is any sort of litigation or concerns, my license would also be on the line. And that's why it was the majority of the reason why I was concerned, not only for patient's sake, but I can move my license if, or all that litigation with patients' safety issues could be on the line as well.
All right. And is it accurate to state at no time did, at any time through the present time, did Ms. Ventura or anybody say, hey, there's a job in pulmonary for you?
No.
Okay, that's all I got for you.
Well, I'll let
Okay.
the exhibits speak for themselves in terms of the pulmonary offers, so I don't have any other questions.
Okay. So, Mr. Olson, any further witnesses?
No.
And I'm just finishing up my notes here. Sorry about that. So does the complainant rest?
Yes.
Okay, Ms. Krakowski, and I know that Mr. Olson called a majority of respondents' witnesses adversely. Do you have any further witnesses to call in support of your case?
I don't
No.
think
Okay, so the respondent rests as well?
we do.
Okay. All right. So then at this point, the testimony portion of this proceeding is done. We do have some exhibits to discuss. I don't know if Ms. Sherry or Mr. Kelly need to be present for that discussion. It's I guess up to their attorneys. So we'll do that, and then we'll discuss whether the parties are going to request briefing.
Yes.
Charnay, you can feel free to leave. You don't need to. I know you'd probably like to stay and talk about exhibits, but I'm going to have you leave at this point.
Honestly, we're just going through and either accepting or not accepting exhibits that have been offered into the hearing record. So not that exciting.
Seems good.
And Ms. Krakowski, did you get the revised exhibit list that I sent out? I think I also copied Mr. Olson on everything I sent as well. Is that correct?
I do have that.
Okay. All right. So Ms. Chair, if you want to leave, we're just going to go through exhibits and then briefing schedules. So, all
I
right.
appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Hope
Okay.
your
All
life gets better.
Thank you. I do too. Okay, so let's pull those exhibit lists back up. I tried to go through quickly this morning, make sure that I didn't have anything on there twice. I did on my written lists have some exhibits twice. So let's let me go to. Sorry, I have to move one screen so I can get access to what I have up on another screen. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing, but all right then. Let me start here. Okay. So starting with the first exhibit list, let's see. It looks like C25 and C26 were not offered or admitted into evidence at this point, but I think they appear on the list later on. So I think, is that correct, Mr. Olson? I think that they were brought up and that they appear on the list later, and I just left them there because I had them initially, but they weren't received at that point.
Right.
Okay,
They
so
were.
then going down the list, I didn't get a name on exhibit 34, but, oh, okay, because it was excluded, so I guess we don't need to discuss that. I didn't get a name on exhibit 64. I can pull that up, but it was admitted at the time. So Bates stamps 429 to 471. So I guess let's just move on to see if we have exhibits 25 and 26 later and need to discuss those. Okay, and can you see this as I'm going through this? Can you see the list as I'm going through it?
I cannot. I've got it up on my screen.
Oh, okay. Huh. Am I not sharing? Okay. Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. So let's see where we need to start admitting exhibits. Let's go to 3. Okay, looks like starting at complainants exhibit 15. And again, if I have any discrepancies with what I have been keeping track of, please let me know. So it looks like we need to start with complainants exhibit 15. It's a Bates stamp 221. If you want me to pull the exhibits out, we're going to have to go back and forth. These are what were labeled as April 2017 to 5/1/18 texts. I don't know if you have the hard copy of everything. The Bates stamp is 221. So is there any objection to the receipt of this exhibit?
Let me look at that. I'm looking online versus the hard copy. I don't know why I can't seem to get this. Hang on one sec here. Oh, here we go.
Okay, I'll go back. Do you see it?
What I'm seeing is, honestly, it's the submission that you gave me regarding all of the exhibits that were attempted to be entered yesterday. And I can't seem to scroll, and I'm having a hard time getting.
Okay, so it's 221. Let me just see if I can pull to this quickly.
Okay.
Mr. Olson, did you have any chance to go through my, I am just getting up to the start. Did you have any chance to go through the exhibit list that I sent?
I haven't looked at that in any detail at all.
Okay. I mean, we can go through this now, or would it make sense for the attorneys to just go through the lists, make sure that everything is accurate, and be prepared with, obviously, I think you all have hard copies of our Bates number. Be prepared to discuss it tomorrow or Friday, anything that you would have an objection to.
Yeah, I can certainly do it that way.
I just want to obviously make this as easy and streamlined as possible.
Yeah.
So we could either do it now where I just pull up the exhibits.
Right.
But if you haven't had a chance to look through the exhibit lists, it's also an opportunity, just to make sure that everything's accurate. I can certainly allow the opportunity. I would have, maybe not tomorrow, but I would have Monday. I believe I have some openings where we could discuss this. I can't imagine it would take more than an hour. I wouldn't set aside more than an hour. Would you agree with that?
I would agree, because from what I've looked through so far this week when we've been going through the trial, I only see one exhibit that I have an objection to, but I
Okay.
would like to look through
Right.
them a
And
little more carefully, but I only have
I mean,
one
obviously there
exhibit.
has been a good deal that have already been, received and admitted, but, and we're not going to rehash those, but this would be the ones that we haven't. And I believe I had just circled one from yesterday that you had an objection to. So why don't we do that? Let me pull up my calendar.
I know the ones the respondent referenced today, I will not be objecting to.
Okay, and there was only, okay, so she had referenced some that were already received into evidence. It looks like 2 others, because I think she started with something that was a document we decided that was a mitigation document. So what I have is respondents 5 with Bates stamp number 73. You have no objection to that, so that'll be received. Is that correct, Mr. Olson? We'll just quickly go through and then there was respondents, what I marked as respondent 6, which was Bates stamp 80. And if there's no objection to that, Mr. Olson, that would be received.
Okay,
And
just a
then
second.
the other exhibits that the respondent referenced today were all previously marked as respondents exhibits and received into evidence. And then there was, I think we went to a Bates stamp 0029, and then I think the respondent abandoned that at that point. That's what I have written in my notes. So we didn't get, that wasn't officially offered into evidence. So you have lists. Looking at my calendar, I have, well, the safest bet is Tuesday. I have absolutely nothing on my calendar on Tuesday.
It looks good to me too.
I know it's not tomorrow and it's not Monday. Unfortunately, I have some other things going on. Unless you want to just.
Tuesday, I'm available only in the afternoon, and I'd be happy to do this in writing also if that works better for everybody.
Okay. I mean, we can do it by email as well. That
Okay.
works for me.
All right.
And I would just say if we could, perhaps try to have, do you think end of the day tomorrow is sufficient to go through these lists and raise any objections you have?
I think so. Like I said, I only see one exhibit that I
Okay.
object to.
Okay, that's
Um,
fine. Then let's do that by end of day Friday, and then I can make my decision in writing as well. If I need more from the parties, I guess we can meet on Tuesday afternoon at 1:30. You just want to put that time aside.
Okay.
Okay. So as far as briefing is concerned, are the parties going to request briefing?
yeah.
Mr. Olson? Yeah.
Yes.
She responded. And so traditional briefing, or would the parties be willing to just cross-file one brief?
Traditional briefing being
I think that makes sense in this case, quite honestly. Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Okay. So the caveat here is, first of all, we have the exhibits, hopefully will be dealt with no later than Tuesday, with, which ones are officially received and not received into the record. Then I have to, it's just there's a little process in getting the recordings to you. So I have to download from WebEx into my file, and then Karen has to go into my file and create, I don't know, was it a CD that she sent you? I don't know how they're sent out anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know it just takes a little bit of time because unfortunately Karen's not in the office, so she has to go in on a specific date and try to get as many done as she can. So what I would propose then is when you actually are in receipt of the WebEx transcript of the hearing. I shouldn't say transcript, it's not an official transcript, but the WebEx recording of the hearing, let me know, and then I will assign a briefing schedule at that point. What I would suggest is, obviously 30 days, 15 days. Does that work?
sure.
30 for the complainant,
30 for the
30
complainant,
for the
30 for the
respondent, and then
respondent,
a
15 for the complainant.
Uh-huh.
Does that work?
And
Now, of course, we don't know the exact date, and sometimes, if it's running into a holiday or something, you can certainly ask that we adjust the dates. I know
Sure.
that's usually happens most at the end of the year, with
Sure.
the Christmas and New Year's holidays that all of a sudden there's something due on December 24th or something like that, and I
Right.
can certainly make adjustments for that. But that's generally how I would suggest doing things. But because I don't know how long at this point it's going to take to get the recordings to you, I would just ask that, and I assume you're both making official requests. I'll just let Karen know that, and once, yeah, just email me again. Email is probably the best form of communication with me when you receive them, and then we'll set up that briefing schedule.
That sounds great.
So I was told that process changed recently, so we will be able to receive a link and just upload it that way without getting a disk.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
So I was not, because I was at the, we had some meetings Tuesday and Wednesday of this week, which I unfortunately was not at due to having this hearing. I think I saw some discussion, in our internal SharePoint, regarding that, can't we just send a link? So
Sure.
if they've figured out a way to do that and made it, made it through our security people, then yeah, that sounds much better. Was that, I'm sorry, did you learn that through John Gallagher by any chance, or? I know he's been the one kind of
and
pushing. He's been the one pushing for that. Yeah. So.
Okay. Yes, and a case I had with him, I actually uploaded it and it worked fine.
Oh, great. Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe. Okay, great. Yep. All right, that should be a little better. I'm not sure on Karen's end whether she still has to come into the office to do that or not. If not, that's wonderful. Then hopefully things can get done even more quickly.
Okay,
Unfortunately, I'm not a technical person at all, so I just go by what people tell me. So
yeah, right. Just do the best we can.
Yeah,
Yep.
same.
okay, all right then. So is there anything else that we need to discuss? Let me just, we're still recording. Anything else that needs to go on the record?
Not by the complainant.
Not by the respondents.
Okay, so I'm just going to set it aside Tuesday at 1:30. If there's, for any reason, we can't get the exhibits figured out, through emails. Okay,
I'm sure we'll be able to figure that out.
I think so. So, all right. Thank you for your
Okay.
time.
Very good. Thank you.
Ms. Wilson.
Thank you. Hope your loved ones are doing well.
Thank you so much, and yours as well.
Thank you.
Everyone here has, I know everyone here has kids, so.
Oh, yeah, I've got 2 kids with COVID right now. So.
Yeah, oh boy. Well, I don't I don't
Yeah.
know what to say to that. I mean, try to, everyone in your household, I hope they
Yeah.
remain as healthy as possible. So,
Yeah, thank you.
all right. Thank
Prayers
you.
go out. Thank you.
Okay.